Attention, Cules. What's happening with FC Barcelona isn't just another rumor, it's an earthquake. The name that has burst onto the scene is one no one saw coming, Julián Álvarez. Yes, you heard right. The Argentine striker, 2022 World Cup champion and a key player for Manchester City, is now being linked to Barça as a real possibility. This isn't baseless speculation or summer fiction. We're talking about maneuvers, intermediaries, moves involving Atletico Madrid, and a chessboard where Joan Laporta, once again, seems ready to push the boundaries of the impossible. Picture this, Julián Álvarez stepping onto the Camp Nou pitch in Blaugrana. The mere thought electrifies the football world and sends shivers down every culé spine. This rumor arrives at a pivotal moment, at the start of the 2025-2026 season, as Barça seeks to reassert its project after a summer of speculation. The pressure is on. The fans demand big dreams. Rivals are lurking, and the club is trying to balance youth with strategic signings under Hansi Flick. In this context, Julián emerges as a different kind of forward, versatile, modern, and dynamic. He's not your typical static striker. He's a player who multiplies his impact in attack, understands the game, and carries the pedigree of sharing a team with Messi and winning titles in England. Just the mention of him as a potential signing sparks excitement because he embodies exactly what Barca's attack is missing: mobility, selflessness, and goals. You can't grasp the impact of this rumor without talking about Joan Laporta. While other presidents hide behind excuses in tough financial times, Laporta looks for loopholes, opens doors, and pushes until financial miracles happen. Bringing in Julián Álvarez wouldn't just be a sporting coup, it would be a statement of intent, a clear message to the world. Barça remains a magnet for talent, standing tall and ready to defy logic. What excites Cules isn't just the stats, it's the dream. And this rumor embodies the very word that has so often driven Blaugrana history. The origins of this story aren't random. From England, City faces a squad overload that limits Julián's minutes. From Spain, Atletico Madrid emerges as a potential facilitator. And in the middle stands Barça, needing to reignite its project with a signing that combines media weight, tactical fit, and emotional resonance. Three pieces that seem incompatible, yet under Laporta's shrewd eye, could align perfectly. The result? A spark that puts Barça back at the center of global football conversation. Imagine what this means for the fans. After Messi's departure, the void was both emotional and tactical. We've been searching for a player who inspires hope, someone who isn't just a scorer but a partner for young talents and a quiet leader on big nights. Julián Álvarez is exactly that, a world-class player without ego, a forward who chases every ball like it's his last, a competitor who thrives under pressure. Envisioning his arrival means imagining a fierce, relentless Barça, reminiscent of the golden years. That's why this rumor is so powerful. No matter how difficult it seems, no matter how La Liga's financial fair play complicates things, the message is clear. Barça keeps dreaming, and as long as hope lives, the club will turn the impossible into reality. This story begins with a name no one expected, a deal that seemed out of reach, and a president who has made the improbable his specialty. Cules, Julián Álvarez is no ordinary striker. His value isn't just in the goals he scores but in his ability to adapt to multiple roles within a tactical system. At Manchester City under Guardiola, we've seen him play as a false nine, second striker, winger, and even a playmaker. This versatility makes him a pure gold asset for any coach seeking flexibility. Now, transpose that profile to Hansi Flick's Barcelona. In a classic 4-3-3, Julián could play as a false nine, dragging defenders out of position to create space for Lamine Yamal's runs. In a hybrid 4-4-2, he'd function as a second striker who knows when to link up, press, and finish. His energy in pressing after losing the ball aligns perfectly with Flick's vision, winning the ball high up the pitch with intensity. Picture the scene, Lamine Yamal breaking down the right, PEDRI receiving between the lines, and as defenders focus on Lewandowski, Julián suddenly appears in the free space. His ability to sync collective movements with individual improvisation is what makes a team unstoppable. With him, Barça would regain that asphyxiating pressure reminiscent of Guardiola's best teams. Julián is the kind of player who lifts those around him. He never gives up, never switches off, always runs that extra meter. In a Barça team that has sometimes lacked focus in big games, his mentality could be the difference between winning and losing. The most exciting part? His arrival wouldn't block anyone. He wouldn't stunt Lamine Yamal's growth or take Pedri's place. He wouldn't limit Lewandowski, who at this stage of his career can be used more selectively, saved for key matches rather than weekly grind. Instead, Julián would elevate everything already in place, amplify the young players, and bring that missing spark of aggression to a developing squad. Imagine GAVI pressing alongside Julián. Imagine Bald overlapping on the left with an attacker pulling defenders away to open up the flank. Every move Julián makes creates a domino effect that benefits the whole team. In the dressing room, his presence would set a new standard of demand. No need for shouting, his palmarès and work ethic command respect. We're talking about a world champion, a player who has won the Premier League and Champions League in one of the toughest leagues on the planet. His arrival would push veterans like Ter Stegen, De Jong, and Lewandowski to stay at their best. And for the younger players, he'd be a mirror of professionalism. This isn't just a signing. It's a revolution. And if Laporta pulls it off, it could be the move that redefines Barca's future. Força Barça. For the supporters, Julián Álvarez would represent something they've longed for, a spark of genuine hope, not just a stopgap signing or a name to sell dreams, but a player who embodies hard work, humility, and goals. In every match, the Camp Nou or the Estadio Olympic Luis companies would buzz with the extra intensity that a relentless player brings. Culés know how to recognize a footballer who gives everything on the pitch, and in a moment when the club needs to rebuild its emotional bond with the stands, that kind of commitment is priceless. A signing like this wouldn't just change the team's dynamic, it would transform the entire club's atmosphere. Hope would become fuel, and Barça would shift from resignation to optimism in a matter of weeks. As soon as Julián Álvarez's name is linked to Barça, it's not just the Spanish press that takes notice, all of Europe turns its head. What started as a minor rumor quickly takes on symbolic significance. It's one thing to discuss an average profile player, it's another to see the name of a World Cup champion, a Premier League and Champions League protagonist in the headlines. This difference ensures the story doesn't go unnoticed. Instantly, sports media amplifies it, debate shows dissect it, and social media explodes. Barça would once again become the center of global attention, something that hasn't happened with this intensity in a long time. For Real Madrid, the impact is immediate. Florentino Perez has built a narrative in recent years around high-profile young signings, particularly Brazilians like Vinicius, Rodrigo, and Endrick, with Jude Bellingham as the current white-hot star. The mere possibility of Barça responding with a move of equal magnitude, and with a World Cup winner, reignites the rivalry. Bellingham versus Julián, Vinicius versus Lamine Yamal. These contrasts would dominate headlines not just in Spain, but across Europe and South America. Suddenly, the duels wouldn't just be on the pitch, they'd be media battles, commercial showdowns, and emotional clashes. Barça would reclaim its place in the narrative war, where Madrid had gained an edge in recent years. Atletico Madrid emerges as a key but conflicted figure in this saga. On one hand, they're rumored to be facilitating Julián's move to La Liga. On the other, they'd be one of the biggest losers if he ends up at Barça. For Diego Simeone, Julián's compatriot, missing out on such a player, and seeing him strengthen Barça in the title race, would be a bitter blow. Simeone has always sought intense, disciplined, title-hungry players like Julián. Seeing him in Blaugrana would be cruel irony and a direct strategic hit to Atletico's ambitions. Beyond the direct rivals, Julián's arrival would have a massive impact on Spanish football. La Liga has struggled with the narrative that it has lost its shine compared to the Premier League. The departures of Cristiano, Messi, and Neymar diminished its global appeal. But Julián Álvarez at Barça would reactivate worldwide interest. In South America, millions would follow Barça just to see him. In Europe, the league would regain a global superstar, drawing back TV audiences and sponsors. In the US, where the Latino community closely follows its icons, the effect would be just as powerful. In short, his signing wouldn't just strengthen Barça, it would elevate La Liga as an international product. The biggest hurdle, as always, is money. Barça isn't in a position of financial abundance. Debt still weighs heavily. La Liga's financial fair play imposes strict limits, and every registration requires millimeter-perfect adjustments. Julián's market value exceeds €80 million, a figure that seems out of reach. Yet, Barça has repeatedly proven that when it wants something, it finds a way. No one thought they could sign players in recent summers, but Laporta has creatively navigated constraints, activating economic levers, structuring deferred payments, and unlocking seemingly impossible resources. Several paths could make this deal happen. Loan with obligation to buy, delaying payment for a year or two. A three-way agreement with Atletico Madrid, easing Julián's arrival in Spain under favorable terms for Barça. Deferred payments with performance-based clauses, matches played, goals scored, Champions League qualification. Player exchanges, which wouldn't be unreasonable given City's or Atletico's squad needs. Each scenario is complex, but none are impossible. The driving force behind this rumor is Joan Laporta himself. His style has always been to operate on the edge of the impossible. When logic said no, he brought in Ronaldinho. When finances were tight, he found ways to keep Messi. When it seemed impossible to register players, he surprised everyone with creative solutions. Laporta thrives in this space where economic logic says no, but Blaugrana epic replies, "If we can, we will." That's the essence of this rumor. Even if it seems difficult, the possibility exists because Barça has never played by the same rules as others. It has always played with the power of illusion. Imagine Barça jerseys with Julián Álvarez's name flooding the streets of Buenos Aires, Rosario, or Córdoba. The Latin American market, already historically tied to Barça through Messi, would find a new icon in Julián. International sponsors know this, and brands seeking global visibility are drawn to his magnetism. In terms of marketing revenue and merchandising, Julián would be an investment that pays off quickly, not just a spending outlay, but a bet that generates prestige, sales, and global projection. Even if the deal doesn't materialize, the mere fact that Barça is in the conversation already generates benefits. The international press headlines it, TV debates mention it, social media buzzes about it. Barça re-emerges on the map as a club capable of aspiring to the impossible, and this effect cannot be underestimated. In a football world where narrative is as important as results, being linked to a signing of this magnitude already puts the club in the global spotlight. And that, in itself, is a victory in the battle for relevance. The emotional connection between FC Barcelona and Argentina is a bond impossible to ignore. For nearly 2 decades, Queules experienced a love story with Lionel Messi, a player who wasn't just the best in the world but became the absolute symbol of Blaugrana identity. His departure left a massive void, both on the pitch and emotionally. Since then, any Argentine player linked to the club sparks a special resonance, a kind of emotional echo that connects to nostalgia and the desire to relive that magic. In this context, the emergence of Julián Álvarez's name is neither a coincidence nor just another rumor. It's the spark that reminds Queules the bond with Argentina still beats and can be reborn. Julián is not Messi and doesn't claim to be. His football is different, his style too, but what they share is that blend of humility, sacrifice, and competitive greatness that so captivates supporters. Julián was Messi's teammate in the Argentine national team. He shared the pitch in Qatar 2022, stood by his side in the plays that led Argentina to the title, and learned firsthand what it means to carry the weight of an entire country. This invisible lesson, one that doesn't show up in statistics, is pure gold for any dressing room. Imagine what it would mean for a young player like LAMINE Yamal to hear Julián tell him, "How do you live through a World Cup semifinal? How do you handle the anxiety of a match that defines a career?" These kinds of stories aren't taught on a tactical whiteboard. They're passed on in the cafeteria, during training, in the small daily gestures. The Argentine legacy at Barça has names and moments already etched in collective memory. From Juan Roman Riquelme and his intermittent magic to Javier Mascherano, a symbol of leadership and professionalism. And, of course, Messi, the player who changed the club's history. They all share the same essence: technique, grit, humility, and character. Julián would fit into this lineage, but with a unique twist. He arrives at the exact moment Barça needs to rediscover not just competitiveness, but hope. And this hope isn't measured in goals, but in what it transmits to the fans. If we look at the possible scenarios, the range is fascinating. In the most optimistic scenario, Julián lands in Barcelona through a loan-to-buy deal. His integration would be immediate, as he's a footballer accustomed to adapting to demanding systems. Flick would alternate between the 4-3-3 and 4-4-2, unleashing Lamine Yamal on the wing and giving Pedri more freedom. With an attacker like him, Barça would make an instant leap in Europe. Rivals would once again fear facing a relentless team. The high press would work again, and the fans' hope would translate into support during the toughest matches. In an intermediate scenario, the deal doesn't happen immediately, but Barça stays in the race. Simply being linked to Julián Álvarez generates media impact and keeps alive the narrative that the club is capable of dreaming big. Even without signing him, the rumor already reignites the Cule spirit and reminds the world that Barça remains a destination for global superstars. And in the most pessimistic scenario, where he doesn't arrive after all, the collateral effect is already secured. The club has repositioned itself, made headlines again, and shown the market it won't settle for minor signings. This attitude alone is a symbolic victory. The climax of this story lies in what Julián Álvarez represents beyond the sport. He is the symbol that Barça can still defy logic, that even with financial limitations, it continues to dream the impossible, that its greatness isn't measured solely by balance sheets but by its ability to inspire millions of supporters. Every time a Cule reads Julián's name linked to Barça, they feel the club is still breathing, that it hasn't lost its essence, that it remains the team that surprises the world. And that's what keeps Barcelonismo alive, the conviction that Barça never gives up. In the dressing room, his arrival would be a positive earthquake. We're not just talking about goals or assists, but the invisible influence he'd have on the team's dynamics. Julián would arrive with the pedigree of having won it all at just 25. This resume automatically commands respect. Veterans would see him as an example of commitment and professionalism, and young players would find a role model showing that excellence is possible through relentless work. The ripple effect would be immediate. If Julián runs, everyone runs. If Julián presses, no one can stay back. This culture of demand is exactly what a rebuilding dressing room needs. The supporters would also experience a transformation. The Camp Nou, Montjuic, any stadium where Barça plays, would vibrate differently. Every action by Julián would be a reason to stand up in the stands. Every press, every goal, every act of selflessness would become a symbol of hope. Collective hope would beat strongly again. And when hope becomes the driving force, Barça transforms. Because a team that believes can challenge anyone, even financial giants. The conclusion of this story is inevitably epic. Barça is not a club that lives in comfort. Its history is made of impossibilities turned into realities. From Johan Cruyff in the 70s to Ronaldinho in 2003 to Messi in 2004, every time the world said, "It's not possible," Barça responded, "We are here." Julián Álvarez embodies that same idea. We don't know if he'll end up arriving, but what we do know is that his name has already lit the flame, and that flame is the essence of Barcelonismo, dreaming even when everything seems against us. Cules, we've reached the end of this journey, but what we've explored today isn't just transfer rumor. It's the living image of what it means to be part of FC Barcelona. Because when a name like Julián Álvarez is linked to our club, we're not just talking about a signing. We're talking about identity, history, hope. We're talking about a club that refuses to surrender, that always finds a way to rise, even when circumstances seem impossible. Julián Álvarez, with his humble character, Argentine grit, and World Cup-winning mentality, embodies exactly that hope. Imagine for a second the Camp Nou chanting his name. Imagine the combinations with LAMINE, PEDRI's passes, GAVI's intensity, and the goals that would lift an entire stadium. Imagine what it would mean for La Masia's young players to train alongside someone who has already experienced what it's like to win a World Cup. This isn't just hype, it's growth, it's a competitive culture. That's why today, I'm not just asking if you think Julián will arrive or not. Today, I'm asking you, what does Barça mean to you? A club that surrenders in the face of difficulties, or a club that dreams even when everything seems stacked against it? Leave your thoughts in the comments, because I want to hear from you. I want to see if you feel the same hope, if you also believe Laporta can pull off the masterstroke that will take Barça back to the top. And before we go, I'll say it from the heart. Subscribe to the channel, like, and hit the notification bell, because here, every day, we continue to build this story together, separating fact from fiction, but always with the certainty that Barça never dies. If you love these colors, if you live this passion, if a name like Julián Álvarez already makes you dream, this is your place. Because being a Cule is this, resisting, believing, and rising again, time and time again. And as long as there's hope, as long as rumors like this exist, Barça will remain eternal.